One of the biggest issues that wholesalers have when starting is coming up with a good offer that's going to make them money, and as well as not waste time trying to figure out what the perfect offer is. Because a lot of times, sellers are going to reject your offer, no matter how good it is. It could be the best offer in the world. If they have no motivation to sell or it doesn't solve their problems, they're not going to accept it. So, what you need to do, especially when you're starting off, is try to get to an offer as quickly as possible so you can get on to the next seller and try to find someone who is actually ready to sell at your price today. So, I'm going to share with you my quick deal analyzer, how to run through it, as well as a flip analyzer. It's going to be able to give you more customizability and finally, finally, finally adjust certain details, maybe. I think that's what I was trying to say. So, let's go ahead and get right to it. Boom, here we are. So this is our deal analyzer. It is so simple to use. You just fill in what's on the blue on the left side, and you get to change this right here as well, which is the level of rehab. So let's go through it. I'll go ahead and delete everything that you have to fill in so you can see it. Awesome. Okay, so we'll start off with saying that is 123 Main Street. Only have to fill that in. It doesn't really change anything. It's just for your reference, actually. And you could do a quick rent analyzer. Just go to Zillow or Rentometer. Just type in, $1,500. And if you had a recent statement from a lender about what interest rates are today, you could type that in. I don't even know what they are. We're not really looking at keeping properties right now. So I'll put 7.5% and how much you think the home would sell for. We can go onto a comping video, or we could go into comping in another video. But for here, let's say that you know that the house would sell for $350,000 and that the square foot of the home is 1750. So this is one of the things that is a little bit of art or magic because you're really not quite sure exactly what the rehab's going to be, but we're going to do our best guess. Remember, this is about trying to come up with a number quickly and not spend 30 minutes or 2 hours running through estimates and calling contractors, trying to get a number of a deal that's probably not going to get accepted. You kind of run through what the seller says and make some best guesses. So if they say, hey, this home is in great condition, we did some updating recently, or it's a new house, then you know it's a turnkey. If it has to do, maybe do some flooring, some paint, maybe update a bathroom or something like that, then it's probably a lighter rehab. You don't have to do too much, replace the cabinets, maybe a new countertop in the kitchen. Then it's probably a lighter, then yeah, about $48,000 for a 1,750 square foot is about appropriate. Or if it's a medium rehab, like you are doing both the bath or all the bathrooms, you're redoing the floors throughout the house, you're doing a brand new kitchen, maybe up replacing the roof and some mechanicals, then about $86,000 is about right. It could be a little bit higher, could be a little bit lower, but that's not the point of this. And then there is the heavy rehab. This is you are replacing everything in the house. You're redoing the floors, you are redoing the plumbing, the electrical, you are replacing the roof, all of the HVAC, maybe some insulation and stuff like that. But this is going to be a pretty much a brand new house whenever you get done with this rehab. Again, it's also plus or minus any amount of money. It is really not a perfect system, but it is a good system to get you started and to get you an offer quickly, like I said. So also the other cost, let's say we're going back down to a turnkey rental. Not much needs to be done, paint inside it out or something like that to kind of spruce it up. But you know that, hey, the HVAC just went out. So let's just go ahead and put $4,500 for that. And it's going to come up with, okay, your total construction costs are about $18,000. This final one is like a fun little piece to it where it's how much is the seller asking. And if they're asking, say, $280,000, we could just to keep track of it, and it has a little bit of a formula later down the line, which I'll show you. And this is going to spit out what your target offer should be in terms of, and I could go a little, maybe details down to the quick numbers. So the target offer and the max offer, these are derived from the quick numbers. And as you could tell in the formulas, it takes the max offer. What it's going to do is take the highest number out of the quick numbers and subtract $10,000 for your assignment fee. And the target is going to be based on what the formula or the level of rehab thinks is best for this type of project. So a turnkey is going to be really good for a hedge fund or maybe a burr investor. If it is a light to medium, this is probably going to be someone who is a burr investor, maybe a 70% of rehab type investor as well. And same thing with medium is probably going to be more of the fix and flipper, the 70% minus repairs. Probably not so good for a burr investor, but I'm sure burr investors will still consider this type of project. And probably not so much for a hedge fund. And for the heavy, this is exclusively for the 70% of rehab. You might find some burr investors as well as again, but this is going to be primarily the 70% minus rehab. You see the 115 right here. Let's see. Oh, actually, notice this is broken actually. So minus 10,000. That's 10,000. Boom. Okay. That was broken and now it's fixed. This is going to give you the range of what your target should be. And this is going to include about a $10,000 assignment fee. And yes, the average assignment is probably about $15,000. So this is just a quick formula. So yes, you might be able to push down, say, hey, let's give them $98,000. And so you could take that 10K assignment to 17. You also might find an investor who does a 70% rule, but like, hey, maybe they'll pay $120,000 because they see a higher ARV. So this is the difference. That is the difference in what your spread is actually going to be. Finding a motivated buyer that is hungry for a deal, as well as being good at negotiations and trying to get the property for less than what your target price is. If we go down to quick numbers, you can see all of them, not just what is in the target at the moment. You'll see, okay, 70% minus rehab, that is 115. Jamil Damji's recommended offer, which would be 192. But just a quick heads up, Jamil's not that great for heavy rehabs. It's more accurate for a medium or a light rehab is what his quick numbers are for. You see Jamil's and a 7% minus for a light rehab is right on target. So that's what I would recommend, at least from my experience with playing around with a calculator and running a bunch of deals. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So the burr price is going to be what a burr investor is going to be probably willing to pay. And I could go into more detail in a second about the back end of these calculators and where this number is different than the 70% investors and what a hedge fund is willing to pay. I have not done a deal with a hedge fund, so I pulled this from what another investor said, and I just threw it in my calculator just so if we think it's a good deal that's mainly turnkey, not a lot of repairs, what would be good for what we think a hedge fund buyer would pay. Let's see. Oh yeah, and what the seller is asking, what it would need to sell for right here is the home would need to sell for $530,000 if they're asking 280 on this house. And it's just a fun little piece. It's not going to really, it shouldn't really matter. What the seller wants should be completely irrelevant unless they want less than what this target price is. So let's actually go into the back end of the calculator to kind of show you where everything comes from. So, oh yeah. So as you can see, you could select different levels of rehab, turnkey, light, medium, or heavy. And those are based on a per square foot numbers, as you can see right here. We're turnkey at $7 a square foot, light at 25, medium at 45, and heavy at 65. Don't use average or guts, so we get rid of those. And custom, I actually have an actual flip calculator. So you're trying to get granular, you could change this in the back end by unhiding all this, or go to the flip calculator when you really want to get into nitty gritty of a specific deal. And you can see right here where this is actually the same as right here, but I just put it in the back end. So if you wanted to adjust any details, it's just going to be adjusting it in the formula up here. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, and the burr price. So what I mainly did was because they're not reselling the property, they're keeping it for their own, that they're probably not going to have to, or they're not going to have to incur the realtor fees and additional closing costs. So they're willing to pay a little bit more than what a 70% minus repair investor is going to want to pay. And that's really where the difference between these two are. Let's hide these again. If you want to download this calculator and the one that I'm about to show you, check out the links in the description below. And we can go to the actual flip calculator now. This is probably needs to be its own separate video, but I'm just going to run through it real quick. So you can see mainly it's very similar. Just type in the address. That was probably a property we looked at a while ago. Delete that. You could put in the ARV and what the square footage is, the level of rehab, the information of the wholesaler or the seller, what they're asking, notes, links to pictures, and you can put in right here the offer that you want to send. Let's just say $200,000. And all of this information gets populated up here. So if you want to copy and paste this into another sheet where you're tracking all the deals that you're analyzing and the offers that you submitted or anything like that. And you can see down here about all of the numbers that are getting calculated to come up with what your maximal allowable offer is and what the recommended offer price is. Boom. Okay. So as you can see that the after repair value is what you put in, the ARV minus fees and profit is actually derived from the profit and selling cost. Equity comes right from this part right here. Repairs is going to be the repairs plus other costs that you have on this little section right here. You can delete those and it adjusts right there and it adjusts right here as well. Your equity is your profit and it takes the ARV minus all of these costs, repairs, and it's going to give you your maximal allowable offer. If you're direct to seller and you want to leave wholesaling as an option, then you subtract out about 10% of the maximal allowable offer, and that will get you your recommended offer price, but also you could go right up to that maximal allowable offer if you're planning on keeping it yourself. If you get it at your max allowable offer and you try to assign it, you're going to be limiting your buyer pool to highly motivated buyers or taking a very small assignment fee, which increases your risk of not finding a buyer and losing your earnest money. It has a section if you want to quickly analyze it as a rental, number of units, if it's a 1 bedroom and it rents for $3,500. They'll tell you that at current interest rates, you're gonna be breaking even, making $13 a month. And this is derived from ownership costs down here, which is 5% maintenance, 5% vacancies, 5% capex, and 10% property management fees, automatically assuming that the taxes are 1% of the value of the building and insurance is put in $100. You could adjust this as you wish, and any HOA if there is any. The profit and selling cost, this is where you get to do the fine tuning of what your costs are for selling a property and ownership and stuff like that. So if you are a realtor, you could have it at 4%. If you're not a realtor and you're going to use one to sell it on the back end, you'll put in 6% to pay for the buyer and the seller. And for closing cost, you're probably going to end up paying 1 or 2%, whatever it is for your state. I would say that just put in 2% to play it safe. And this part of the equity is also your profit. One thing that I don't really like about this is that this calculator is that I have it as a percent. And sometimes you kind of want to put in, like, oh, I want to make $50,000. Well, you kind of have to just play around and try to get it to right at $50,000. And that was funny how I got so close at just clicking random buttons. But typically 15% is the target for the 70% rule. And financing is typically about 7% as well. As you see, that would be 30%, which is 100 minus 30 is where the 70% rule comes from. The rehab budget estimates and other costs. So you get to change these numbers as you seem fit. If you think you actually have a better deal or you do the work yourself, it's going to cost you $5 per square foot for rentals. Or if you think that these numbers are any different, you just change them as you see fit for your business. Or if you are doing a new construction or anything like that, you can change the custom to whatever number that you want. And you could drop down right here. I don't have it in the quick one because that's supposed to be a quick calculator. I recommend the flip calculator once you have something under contract and you're trying to get the fine details of what your offer should be. And other costs are right here. Yeah. So if there's a roof or an addition that you're trying to do, oh, the $75,000 addition, put it in right here, and it's going to reflect in the other costs on the formula and into your final offer number. Let's see. And yes, the financing, you just put in 7%. But if you want to get into more granular details about what you believe your financing costs are actually going to be, I have a section over here under financials. And this is going to tell you a more accurate number of what total payments, your down payment, as well as how much cash you need to close on this deal and to perform the rehab. So your down payment is whatever your hard money or private money requires of you. If it's 20, type in 20. So it's pretty straightforward. This little drop down right here is who is paying for the rehab. Are you getting it financed from the private money lender or the hard money, or are you paying for it out of pocket? Depends on what you're doing is going to dramatically impact how much cash you need to do the project, but also it helps save a lot of money if you decide to pay for it yourself. I would recommend don't doing that. Just pay the extra expense, make a little bit less money by not having to come out of pocket so much. As you see, for the current information, it says you need $104,000 to do the rehab, but if you change it to financing, you only need about $47,000 to financing it is only costs about $4,000. So not having to bring to the table like $70,000 is only going to save you $4K. I don't think it's worth it in my opinion, but that's going to be up to you and your team. So let's say you finance it and the financing costs are 1% or 2%. It's pretty typical, one of those two. If you get a good hard money lender or a good PML, then you might get 0 or 1%. But let's just put in 1% for this exercise. And then what is your interest on the loan? I'd say 10% is probably considered good right now in this market. Could be up as 12% or higher, but going back down to 10%. And how long is this going to take you to close, do the rehab, and sell? 4 to 6 months is pretty typical. We just put in 6 months for this example, and it says that you will need about $17,850 in loan payments, as well as $29,000 for down payment. So you would need about $47,000 to pay for this project, essentially. And you notice that, hey, this number is pretty different from this financing cost. Let's move this down to 5%, 4%. 4.5%, and it gets you right there. Maybe just keep it at 5 to have a little bit of a contingency and, give yourself a little buffer, essentially. A fun little part is doing the partner profit split. So if you bring in a financier to cover the cash needed to close, how much of the profit are you going to give them? So if they were paying for everything, let's say you paid for cash and all this kind of stuff, or they paid for the actual project and all the repairs and everything like that, they would probably get 50%. But if they are leveraging it and using financing as a hard money, I probably wouldn't give them 50%. I would probably go for 20 or 30% of the project, because if it takes 6 months and you give them 20% of this one and they end up making $12,000 on a 50K investment, that is a pretty strong return. Or if you do 30%, it's a really good return in my opinion. Of course, there's risk, but if you buy it at a good deal, there's actually not as much risk as you think there is. If you and another partner are splitting it, you could do 35 to kind of see how much that you and your other partner that you're working with are each making in this deal. And down below, if you decide to keep it for whatever reason, or if you want to see how much regret you're going to have later by selling it, you could type in what this property is going to be worth, how much equity that you would have in the deal if you kept it. So let's say the current value is $400,000, or the value after you do repairs is going to be $400,000. And what you think the property is going to appreciate at 4% is considered relatively high, but not too much, but 3% is probably more accurate. In 10 years, it'll be worth $537,000, and you have built up $191,000. So means you would have made about $19,000 a year over that span if you just keep it, instead of just taking a $63,000 profit at the sale. These two calculators are all that you need to get started in wholesaling or fix and flip investing when it comes to analyzing your deals. And like I said before, you can download them in the link below in the description. If you're looking to get started with wholesaling, I made a video right here about how to get started wholesaling for free. Definitely recommend going to check it out. If you get any value out of this at all, I would truly appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. I'm Adam Upchurch. This is the REINVESTOR Show. I'm out. Peace.